All right, I got a really nice game for you here today. This is a game that I literally just played, and uh, and I thought it was a pretty good one, so I want to share it with you. So first things first, looking at the matchmaking threats to my ship, there's a Nakamov CV to piss me off with planes. There's no radar other than the Orkan right there. And then there's a Gearing, Sherman, Daring, and Orkan for destroyers. There's only one cruiser, which is a Charles Martel, which can be nasty if I get too close to him. But again, like many other nasty cruisers, he doesn't have a way to spot me on his own. That doesn't involve me inting into detection range or into hydro or something like that. But uh, with a carrier, it is a little more threatening, but we'll keep an eye on him. As we already going over destroyers, Gearing, Sherman, Daring, and Orkan. Orkan of which, of course, has radar and a Baleo. Balau. I don't know how it's said. Like I've seen it pronounced both ways, and I honestly don't know which one is right. Is it Baleo or Balau? Let me know if you know. So that aside. Uh, right now, I am just looking at our Elbing and I'm trying to determine if that's a steel camo Elbing or not, which you can tell it's not because there was those little triangles there, indicative of the silver camo. So that is a silver camo Elbing, not a steel camo one, which is only slightly less bad. I mean, he's playing Elbing for one thing, so I mean it's pretty bad, but it's whatever. I'm just not even gonna get into that. We do just drop off of RPF right there, and what that's telling me is that whatever destroyer had it is probably heading for this cap right here. So I'm peeling off and I'm looking to walk up the 910 line, and this guy right here pops up. And this right here, I immediately just have to smoke up because I do not fancy doing a full gamer turn in front of that Daring. And I do take a very nasty amount of damage from that exchange, but we do a very respectable amount of damage in return to that Daring. Orkan pops up getting griefed by planes. And right here, you do manage to get a little bit more chip on that Daring, and we angle out, so he misses and he gets one bounce. And this is something that a lot of destroyer players kind of struggle with, is they're too greedy with their consumables. They want to hold on to them for the late game, which is a understandable thing, but at the same time, you have to be able to make it till late game in order for those extra consumables that you're saving to be coming into play. So it is always better to use your consumables to save your HP than it is to save your life. I mean, obviously, if you need to use them to save your life and are able to, you obviously should. But you want to not only use your consumables to protect yourself, but you can also use them as an offensive tool, as we saw with this Daring right there. We were able to get a cheeky shot off on him, and we were angled out, immediately went dark, and his return salvo bounced. And we also, when we smoked up there, we denied that Daring from getting accurate shots on us. I mean, of course, we were very close, and we got blind fired, and we did take a fair amount of damage because it is a Daring at the end of the day. It's going to do a lot of damage to a tier 8 destroyer, no ifs, ands, or buts. But the trick is just using your consumables to minimize the amount of damage that you take from each engagement. And then in the case of Kid, you can also use your heal to heal back some of the damage that you've taken after an engagement or during, depending on how you use them. So right now what we're looking at is we know this Daring is fairly low, and I was honestly kind of expecting, or not really expecting, but hoping that that carrier, the Essex on our team, would go and finish off the Daring, or at least grief him so he fucks off for a little while, which didn't happen, which is unfortunate, but oh well. I guess he was trying to help out our Hayate, which, to be fair, I kind of get, but at the same time, look at where the fuck that Hayate was. So, yeah. And then, of course, our Elbing donates, because it's an Elbing. That's literally what they do. And right here, Daring pops up. And right here, I'm going to just immediately smoke up again. As soon as my my smoke comes off cooldown, I'm going to pop it because these guys right here can keep me spotted. There's a Martel over there that's going to do a fair little bit of damage to me. And I just immediately smoked up again in order to save my health. And because that Daring smoked up, I was still spotted because that Charles Martel was coming around the island, so I immediately had to pop my smoke to have myself go dark, so that way I'm minimizing the accurate shots on me. And of course I did take a little bit of blind fire there while I was actually going into the smoke. It happens, but it is better than eating a reload booster to the face. And the Seton actually throws me off a little bit because I was expecting him to keep reversing. Which I guess it does make sense that he wouldn't, considering there's a Montana, Harbin, and Schlieffen right there. But just trying. He also burned his DCP earlier as well on one of our fires. So the fires that the Essex set on him is actually going to be what finishes him off. I don't know what gets the big hit on him. I'm guessing it's about to be that Wisconsin that's about to get the Zeton low enough for that fire to finish him off. But I do chill out in the smoke a little bit just for these planes to pass so I can safely exit my smoke and not be detected. And that was some amazing blind fire right there, by the way. Right now, what I'm looking at is mainly these two destroyers. Obviously, I kind of want to try and get a torpedo shot into this Wisconsin and this Charles Martel. And the reason that this is a decent shot right here, even though they're out of range, first of all, the way I can tell they're going to be in range is I'm looking at this line right here where when you have a target selected, it's showing on the minimap their current course, not their speed or anything, but just there's a straight line from the bow of their ship. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking for my line of aim, the middle of where I'm looking at, aka where I'm aiming. I'm looking for this line and the targeting line of the target's bow. I'm looking for those two lines to intersect. And if that intersection is within your range of torpedoes, then they will be in torpedo range. So that's how I know that they're in torpedo range. And also, it's a good shot because these guys are also being forced to angle towards this Wisconsin. So I do want to have torpedoes out like that because he's being forced to go a certain way. I do end up under leading them a little bit, and you can see me taking slight glances off to the side at how they're looking. We do under lead them, which is a little unfortunate, but oh well, it is what it is. And then our Essex spots the Orkan. And he's, honestly, this surprised me. I was really expecting him to slow down behind this island, but no, he's just gonna send it. And someone doesn't just round the corner here and not immediately shoot their guns, and that immediately tells me, yep, there's torpedoes on the way. And with that radar, when that Orkan dies, that radar goes away. I can smoke up right here. And I honestly didn't need to smoke up, but I did more to guarantee my safety than anything else. Because when we look at the remaining threats to my ship, there's only the Nakhimov that's left. The rest of them will require me to int in order for them to pose a threat to me. So that's why I'm okay with burning a smoke right here, even though I technically didn't need to. And I was hoping that that this Wisconsin would stay spotted a little while longer for me to farm him, but didn't happen, so oh well. And what I want now is I'm just going to dip from D, because also there's the classic replay bug if you haven't noticed. I'm just going to dip from D because there's no reason for me to risk my life in order to defend it because we're picking up B at the moment at least. And even if we don't get B and D gets capped, we'll still be on equilibrium. We'll have 2 caps per side, so it's not going to matter because we are ahead. Don't trust the replays. That's everyone's favorite, newest replay bug. But yeah. So right now I'm just playing a little bit of cat and mouse with this Wisconsin. And something I also want to talk about that I didn't really get to earlier is before we engaged that Orkan, when we slipped into this little area right here, there was a very specific reason that I went to that specific spot. And we saw that after that Orkan died because I immediately was able to go dark because I put myself in a position, and I was planning on engaging the Orkan anyway, but my plan with that position was I wanted to have these islands right here block the line of sight from both of the Wisconsin that was up here and the one that was out here, so I can basically engage the Orkan in one-on-one, which the Orkan ended up ultimately donating because, I mean, random DD players, it's what they do. And after that Orkan died, I was just immediately able to go dark. And the reason I went dark there was because I had the islands in between both of these Wisconsins because I positioned myself extremely carefully in order to guarantee that that would be the case. So that is something to keep in mind as well when you are looking to start engagements and pick gunfights with enemy destroyers. You want to do it in a position where it's a forced 1v1, or ideally it's a forced 1vu plus whatever support you have, aka 1v2, 1v3, whatever the case may be. You want as much support as you can, but at very, very minimum, you want a pure 1v1, so that way you're not going to be getting shot by other ships in addition to the one you're fighting, and that's going to minimize the damage that you take. And yeah, there's that Harbin, I remember that. He's just sat in his smoke broadside until the smoke faded and then got dev struck by the Montana, so raise your hand if you're surprised by that. Anyway, this entire game, I've kind of been a little bit all over the place. I'm just going to greed for a little bit of plane kills. And also, this is something I want to go over real quick as well. Watch with this Nakhimov. I activate my Def AA, but before I activate my priority sector, I wait for him to fly over my ship and then fly over my ship and then be on the far side flying away from me before I hit my Def AA sector. So that way, instead of hitting my Def AA sector and he just takes a one little bit of damage and flies right over me and then is suddenly on my weak side, he flies over me, then I hit my reinforced sector, and since he's already passed over me, he can't just pass over me again without doing a full turnaround and eating a bunch of AA damage, possibly eating flak and losing planes. So that is a very, very easy mistake, and a very common mistake I see get made is people use their Def AA and their priority sector while the planes are about to pass over them. It's a much better strategy to activate your Def AA for the reinforced damage, wait for the CV to pass over you, then hit your reinforced sector on the opposite side to where he is now. So that way he is forced to stay in your reinforced sector. And right here I'm just getting a little bit of a cheeky chip damage on that repub as the game ends. So that was a fun little game that I think really highlights the importance of not being stingy with your consumables and using your consumables, your smoke, not only defensively, as we saw with the second one, but also offensively, as we saw with the first one. And a smoke can also be used both ways at the same time, as we also saw with the first one. I used it to make myself go dark, and even though I took some blind damage, it's a lot better than just sitting spotted in front of a daring. So The key lesson to learn from this is do not be stingy with your consumables because it's better to save your life now than to risk eating a ton of damage just so you can save them for later, which if you don't even survive to that point, suddenly that saved consumable is just completely worthless. So that I think is going to be enough for today. That's it for this game. So I will see you tomorrow.